Hey Disney friends, I hope all is well. I am going to be showing you guys some of my favorite cherished items. Well, I was recently tagged from Coco for Disney on a tag about your favorite things that you cherish. So I went through a few of my stuff and I found two really very special items that I'm going to share with you guys today. I think I'm only sharing two just because I really want to talk about them a little bit because they are very, very important to me. One, I already looked it over before doing this and I've already cried once. So hopefully I can manage myself to get through some of this. But the first one that I want to show you, guys, is I'm gonna have to take you guys back. This goes back like 20 years. So for those who follow me on this channel, have known that I had once worked at Walt Disney World. But let me explain a little bit more. So I actually did the Disney college program. I actually went down to Walt Disney World back in 2003. I went down, I actually applied twice. I applied the first time, but they gave me the extended, so it would have been longer, and I wasn't sure if I really wanted to work through the summer, so I had to decline it. But then I went back the following semester and applied again, and of course I was like, I accepted it, so I ended up going down. And I went down because not only did I want to work at Magic Kingdom or work at one of the parks, I was majoring in graphic design at the time, and I wanted to do some stuff for graphic design or illustration or something in my field. So when I went down there, of course, I worked in Liberty Square. I worked in the gift shops. My favorite one was working the cart near Haunted Mansion. That was like one of my favorite places to work. Every time they asked me to work that, I was like, yes. I just loved it. I think I love the costume more than anything else. I had a really hard time liking the Liberty costume. It was really hot and those dresses are very long. And you have to wear this thing on your head. It wasn't my thing, but I still did it. But because I was majoring in graphic design at the time, and all the coordinators that I was working with knew that, they allowed me to do a test for calligraphy. So at one point I was actually, I worked, I'm trying to remember, the Christmas tree shop where I actually went and painted on the ornament. So I don't know if you guys ever gone into the Christmas tree shop. You can get an ornament, you can go up to somebody and you can tell them what you want written on it, and they will draw really fancy they do calligraphy on the ornament for you and what you want, and then they put it up above and you come and you can get it, but usually you pay ahead. So I had done that and I absolutely loved it. But one of the other things I really wanted to do was something to do with illustrations or drawing or something of that. So I worked really hard down there, and when I was getting towards more closer to the end of doing the Disney program, one of my supervisors came up to me and said, "Look, Sarah, we've been talking about you, and we know that you have done a lot, and you want to do something in graphic design because you're a graphic design major." And I said, "Yeah, I really like to do something. I really want to be like an illustrator or something." And she goes, "I have something lined up for you." And I was like, "Really?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, I just couldn't wait. I didn't know what it was." And she's like, "How would you like to go work with sketch artists on Main Street?" Yeah. For like a whole day. So I was just so excited and just so tickled pink that they thought of me and to go do this. So for a whole day, I got to go to Main Street and work with some of the sketch artists on Main Street. And first, they took me out back to work on some of their boards, and I got to draw some of the characters. But then afterwards, I actually got to go out with the guests and draw like on their board, which is really cool because it like spins and stuff. So I was just so excited. It was just one of those, for me, it was definitely one of my magical moments of getting to work with the sketch artists. And these sketch artists actually got to work with I think it was like one of the last sketch artists they actually worked with Walt, and so they were trained by him, which I thought was amazing. So it was such a magical moment. And the cool part is they allowed me to keep 2 of the pieces. So I was really excited because I got to keep this. So I've always had it framed, and I keep it above my computer so I can look at it all the time, because it just makes me so happy that I got to do this on Main Street with sketch artists. And so I'm going to show it to you now. So here, hopefully I'll get to show you well. Of course, I picked one of my favorite characters to do. But this right here is Lady from Lady and the Tramp, and they actually let me keep the one with the logo, which sometimes they don't, but they were like, we'll let you keep the logo one. And I was like, oh, I was so excited. So, but this is what I drew. And the most funniest thing is that after I drew it, they said, you need to go now around and talk to the guests and ask the guests if they would buy this for $35. Okay, so I did. I walked around. I was like, hi, how are you? Would you like to buy this for $35? And, and I would talk to the guests about it, and they were just like, and they would be like, oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, like, oh, this is great. Oh, I didn't even know they did this. And so that was kind of fun. But yeah, that was like one of my big magical moments down there, was to sit there, go on Main Street, and work with the sketch artists. And I've always had it ever since. But this is my Lady and the Tramp. This is what I did. And I'm just so excited I got to keep it, because I love the fact that I get a logo. Because sometimes, honestly, really, they never let them keep it. I actually have another one just like this of Lady and the Tramp, but it doesn't have the logo. But this is the one I framed and I kept up, because it means a lot to me. But it's weird, because last time I think I went down there, they don't go for $35 anymore. They go for like 55 or 60. So they've definitely gone up in price. But again, if you ever go on Main Street, I think they still do it there. I think they still do sketch artist work where you can go in, ask them what you want, tell them. There's a book too. And you go in, you can look through the book. And they have all these different characters, and you can just tell them which one you'd like, and they will do it for you. And then they give it to you. So, I mean, it's a really cool thing. And I think actually you can do it there. And I remember they also do it at Disney Springs too, at the art shop they have there, which I can't remember the exact name. But yeah, so there's my first treasured piece that I have. And this one again is from Disney when I was down there working. This next one, I'm gonna try. I've already cried once, so I think I'm good. So, but for many years, I've also worked at another theme park. So when I was younger, I started working at a theme park because my parents told me I had to have a job. I was fine with that. So I was like, a lot of my cousins and my relatives were working at a place called Storyland in Glen, New Hampshire. And they had this big blue bus that would take you from where you lived, and it'd take you to Storyland, and you would work there. So I got accepted, and I started working there, and I absolutely loved it. And I switched a couple different jobs. I think I started P-Lot, which I did the parking lot services. I did drama. I worked on the rides. I did rides. And again, working at Storyland actually is, I think, one of the key that got me in right away at Disney World, because Disney World, when they found out that I worked at Storyland, they know that Storyland actually role modeled off of Disney. So we kind of did the same exact stuff. Like, we were very guest oriented and did a lot of it was just a very special type of park, and it was based off of a lot for Disney World. So it worked really well. But when I tried for Disney, they were like, oh, you work at Storyland. That's great. So I think that really helped me get in. But again, I had worked at Storyland for almost, oh my God, I think in total I had worked there for 13 years. But around this time, I think I had only worked there for 9, 10. So at one point, working at Storyland, I decided that I was going to go work in the gift shops. But they had a really cool new gift shop, and it was called Let's Pretend. And it was just based on costumes. If you love costumes, this was the store for you. Costumes everywhere. Girls had costumes all over the place. Boy costumes, girl costumes, just everything you can think of. They had superhero costumes, and they had princesses costumes and fairy costumes and pirate costumes, and it was awesome. We even had a cool hat section on one side where you had all these different hats you could try on, and I was absolutely in love with my job. I loved it. People come in, I was just couldn't wait to like dress them up and dress their kids up, and it was just one of my favorite jobs that I ever had. And of course, because I got so into it, one time my supervisor there was like, why don't you get some of the adult outfits? Because I like trying some of the costumes on, and of course I was much younger then, but they were like, we'll get you some of the adult versions. So they got me some of the adult versions to try on, because if you were wearing the costume and you were the character, people were like, oh, look at the character, and then you would see like the costumes just fly off the shelf, because the kids or the adults would meet the characters and they'd be like, oh, I want my kid to play Spider-Man or Batman or little, Cinderella, because we had our Cinderella. So I loved playing Dorothy. That was my biggest thing. I just loved playing Dorothy. They had the costume for me, but I went above and beyond. I had the hair pieces. I got my shoes. They were like, I made them myself. They were ruby red. They were just beautiful. And I just loved going out. I would actually leave sometimes, let's pretend, and go out and walk around and just meet the guests and just talk to the kids, and it was just so, so wonderful. It was such a great, fun job. I wouldn't even call it a job. I just felt like it was just part of me. I just loved it. I would just get into it and I'd just become her. I just loved it. But I meet so many kids. So one time, I was not even in my costume yet. I don't even think I was going to play her that day, if I remember right, because I left my costume in the car. And because it was a really busy day. Sometimes on busy days, we just couldn't play the characters. But I had this father come up to me, and he saw me. He was like talking first one to the other girls, and the other girls just pointed at me, and he came running over, and he just went, Dorothy? And I was like, I'm what? And he's like, oh, you have no idea. He's like, I have a daughter, and she met you like 2 years ago, and she really, really wants to see Dorothy. She's just got to see Dorothy. We tried again to see you last year, and honestly, she cried all the way back down to Boston. And I was like, well, I don't want to make her cry again. I'm like, I've not been here. I'm like so sorry. And I said, can you like let me know a little bit about your daughter? And he's like, yeah, her name was Teresa, and you met her with her little sister. She saw you in Ice. Remember, she liked you from the Ice Capades, because she had never seen Wizard of Oz. She had remember going to see not Disney, but Dorothy on Ice. And I was just like, oh, okay. And right there when he said that, I remember 2 years ago of meeting a little girl in Let's Pretend. I was dressed up as Dorothy, and we had like a half-hour conversation, and I remember giving her an autograph and taking pictures with her. And I was just like, I remember you guys. Yeah. And he's like, you have no idea how much it would mean to us if you could just, is there any way to get you dressed up as Dorothy for her? And I was like, I said I wasn't. It was a really busy day, but if you guys came all the way from Boston, and one thing she wants to do is see, Dorothy, I'm going to make that happen. So I said, you know what? Why don't you come back? I have the costume in my car. I can't leave. We're really busy, but I do have a lunch break. So for my lunch break, I will go get my costume. I will get into it. And why don't you come back here around 3, and I will hang out with her and I'll see her. And he was like, oh, thank you. We'll make that happen. So he left. And, I went on my lunch break. I think I had like a really quick sandwich, ran all the way out to my car, got my stuff, came back, and I remember getting into the outfit and dressing up. And I think if I remember right, I was trying to clean some stuff out on one of the shelves when I heard this faint little voice go, Dorothy? And I just remember just knowing like that moment, I'm like, oh my God, this has got to be her. Because I knew that the time was. And I just spun around, and I got down on my knees, and I said, Teresa, it's been so long. I'm so glad you've come. And I'm trying not to cry, but I just remember how happy I made that little girl. And I'm sorry. I told myself I wasn't going to cry. And I spent another half hour with her that day. And it was just such a magical moment with her. And I still, even though it's been so many years, I still think about her. And I'm just so glad I gave her that. And we just spent so much time. Like, we took pictures, I gave her autographs, she had her video taken with us, and I spent a good half hour, maybe even more with her that day, along with other kids, of course. But I just knew that I just wanted to make sure I made her day, especially since she had such a rough time the following year. Whew. And her parents were just so wonderful. And, afterwards, I saw her leave. She was smiling. She said bye to me. And then it was probably a little whiles after that where my supervisor, it was probably I don't know, like a month later, came up to me and she handed me this. And it was a letter. And the letter was from these people. And I really would love to read this to you guys. But it said, "Dear Storyland, our family wanted to take the time to write to you and tell you about a wonderful employee and staff you have. Here it's at Storyland when we went to our visit in August. Our 4-year-old daughter, Teresa, has a favorite character. It is Dorothy from Wizard of Oz. 2 years ago, about a week after we had seen Wizard of Oz and seen Dorothy on ice, we had actually met your Dorothy at Let's Pretend Shop. One of your employees, sorry we didn't catch her name, but she was working with you guys for about 10 years, had dressed as Dorothy with complete red shoes and Toto." I always had Toto in my basket. And she goes, "And Teresa was thrilled and amazed to see her at Storyland. Last year when we visited, Dorothy was not in the shop, and we had to explain to Teresa that she might have gone to Kansas or Oz. But she was very sad, and we were just hoping that maybe this year we would be able to see her. Well, we did." Says, "All Teresa wanted to do was visit Let's Pretend and see Dorothy. Well, my 2 girls, so the mom had actually waited in line to see Storyland Queen, which unfortunately is not even a ride there anymore. She says her husband ran into the gift shop to see if Dorothy was present. Upon inquiring if someone was there to dress up as Dorothy, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the same employee was there. When my husband explained that about Teresa's wish to meet Dorothy, your employee agreed to meet us later that day dressed as Dorothy. Not only was she willing to dress as Dorothy, but she had to go out of her way to first retrieve the costume from her car during her lunch hour. When we returned to the store that afternoon, Teresa was speechless when she saw Dorothy and Toto, because I had Toto with me. And she goes, it was her biggest thrill of the vacation. Dorothy gave Teresa her autograph, took her picture with her. She goes, would you please forward this on to her so she could have it? It was just another very special memory that your employee had gave our daughter. We are very grateful and appreciative of what she did, and we'll always remember her. That she took her extra time to make our visit at Storyland extra special. Sorry. And it said that I guess they had offered me a tip, but I declined. But I told them they should go to the wishing well, which they did, and they gave it to Teresa. And it said, needless to say, we let Teresa have the honor of donating money and can only imagine what she wished for. We are planning on visiting your park again next year, and we look forward to new attractions. And it said, any chance by adding a Wizard of Oz theme ride next to the crazy barn that appears to be a barn that's a twister, which is really funny because the crazy barn that's up there, it's one of the rides at Storyland, and it's like a twister, and people always think it's like the Dorothy ride, but it was just a ride they had put there for the crazy barn because it went with the tractor ride that we had there. But again, this letter is what my supervisor handed me, but another part of it is that Teresa went out of her way to make Dorothy this really cute little picture. And of course, this is Oz. And she said, Teresa, this is have a good winter, because I had told her I go away for winter and I go back to Kansas sometimes or Oz. So she wanted me to make sure I had a good winter. And they had sent me pictures of her too. So I keep this with me because it really means a lot to me. But here I am with Teresa. She's a very special place in my heart. I think this is the other one too. See, we have two of us together. You know, it's funny because I even think now, and I'm like, she would have been like, she's like 22 now, and here she is at 4. But just to let you know, Teresa, if you're out there, I still think of you, and I still have your pictures, and I definitely kept it. I still have your picture, so I have it with me, and I will always treasure it. I promise. But again, those are my 2 biggest like things that I keep that definitely mean a lot to me. I mean, I have other stuff, but when you work in theme parks or you work at jobs where you have a lot of guests or you do a lot of things, over time you collect a lot of your own little magical memories and things that you treasure. So those are the 2 things that I wanted to show you guys today, and I will try to relax, and I will see you guys again next time. Thank you for hanging out with me and checking out my stuff. So bye now.